unfaithful servant who buried his money. The same was given to the two who invested it wisely. Two people, they were all given the same amount of money. Two of them invested it wisely. One of them didn't. But you know what? As soon as that servant buried that money, the owner didn't come back immediately and say, well, give me that money. You're going to be fired. You're going to be judged as a result. No, he was given the same amount of time, the same opportunity to see if he would change what he was doing and to do what was right. It's interesting to note that some of these people were left in authority. David did what was wrong, but yet he was still left in authority. Some were left in prosperity. Nebuchadnezzar was still the king and still could enjoy everything that he had during that waiting period, that time. And some were left in responsibility. Those to whom the talents had been given, they still had the responsibility. The same as the ones who were doing good, the one who was doing wrong still had the same responsibility. We look at these things and we say, well, in every case, there was a period of time where they could have made things right before judgment came. And by making things right, hopefully judgment wouldn't have come. You say, how can we rationalize this? How can we reason this? How is this possible? Well, number one is because God is just. We as humans think that everything needs to be fair. We think that everything needs to be fair. If one kid gets a trophy, everyone needs to get a trophy. If one person gets a certain dollar amount at work, everybody should get that certain dollar amount at work. But you know what? Life isn't fair. Life's also not a circus. You know what? Life's not fair. But you know what? We tend to think that because we think everything should be fair, we think that God should be fair. But you know what? The Bible doesn't teach that God is fair. The Bible teaches that God is just. God is just in fairness, where fairness demands that everyone be treated equally. Justice demands that everyone receives what is right. And that's the difference between fairness and what is right. Years ago, a man complained to Andrew Carnegie that it was unfair that Mr. Carnegie should be so wealthy while others were so poor. When Mr. Carnegie asked his secretary to find out his net worth and then divide that by the population of the earth, this resulted in a total of 27 cents per person on earth. Mr. Carnegie reached into his pocket, gave the man 27 cents, says, "Here's your share of my wealth, now leave me alone." He was getting what was just, I guess you could say. God is just. He's not always fair. God is just. Number two, God is merciful. I think of the Psalms where David says, "Thy mercies are new every morning." God allows time for us to turn from our ways, to turn from ourselves, to turn from our pride, to turn from our own self-conceit, and to turn to Him. God is merciful. God also does not love to punish. If we were to read the Bible, at times if we're not looking properly and looking through God's eyes, we can almost think that God loves to punish somebody. That He's just waiting with that switch to just beat you. But you know what? He's not. God doesn't love to punish. He gives us space so that punishment can be avoided. You say, well, why would God do this? Why would God give space before He brings judgment? Well, number one, God gives us space so that we can turn to Him, to change our minds, to see things as God sees them, and to call them what God calls them. A sin is sin. It's not just my choice. And God gives us space to think as He does. God gives us space also to return. AT&T many years ago ran an advertising campaign to get back some customers that was lost to other carriers, and their slogan was, "We want you back." You know what God's slogan is? We want you back as well. No matter how far we have gone, no matter how miserably we have failed, God still wants us back. No matter how much we have damaged the cause of Christ, God still wants us back. That's why in the story of the prodigal son, God is represented as the Father waiting with open arms. Not with a switch in one hand and a chain in another to make sure he never runs away again. No, he's waiting there with open arms saying, "Welcome back." But you see, our problem is that we're ignorant. We think that we're different. We think that we can get away with sins that God judges in others, and sometimes we think that we're so important that God will not judge us. I heard of one pastor who had a hero in the faith, you could call it, and he went to his friend and he said, this pastor friend of mine, this hero of the faith that I have, he's lying about things. And his other friend said, "Well, you need to go and talk to him about it." And so this very well nationally known pastor went and talked to this other nationally known pastor and questioned him about this lie. And he said this, he said, "I've done so," the one who had been caught in the lie said, "I've done so much for the Lord over the years, he just gives me a little leeway in areas like this." You know what? That's not true. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. Doesn't matter who you are. But we think we're special. We're ignorant. Number two, we ignore. God speaks to us through our conscience and through His Spirit living inside of us, through His preachers, through family members, and through friends, but we blindly and willfully go our way towards judgment, thinking that because God has given us space, He's ignoring our sins. But that's not true. There's three principles that I want to leave you with here. Number one, it's this: liberty is not license. Liberty is not license. Although the master left the servant left his talents with his servants for a long time, the Bible says, he did eventually come back to see what they had produced. During that time, they were at liberty to determine the best place to invest the master's money. They were not at liberty, though, to use it for themselves or leave it uninvested. Liberty is not license. Just because God is giving us space doesn't mean He's okay with it. We lose our freedom to choose when we give into temptation and when we give into sin. In fact, the consequences of our choices are inevitable. They're incalculable, and they're totally up to God. When we allow that liberty to become a license, that word, use that word liberty as Paul used it, meaning we can choose to do what we want to do. That liberty, though, is not license. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Judgment will come. Number two, time is not tolerance. Instead of bringing the world under conviction, 120 years of righteous preaching seems to have made them indifferent to God's warnings in the time of Noah. However, the fact that He gave them a century and 2 decades of time, it didn't mean that He was in any way tolerating their sin. He was just giving them space. An atheist said, "Well, if there's a God, may He prove Himself by striking me dead right now." Nothing happened, and he turned to his Christian friend and he said, "You see, that means there's not a God." And his friend responded, "No, that only proves that He's a gracious God." You know what? Just because God is allowing time, it doesn't mean that He's tolerating it or turning a blind eye. Lastly, patience is not permissiveness. patience is not permissiveness. Samson seemed to have made the mistake of confusing God's patience with indifference, and believing that because God was giving him space for 20 years to turn from his sin, he somehow believed he could live as he wished and keep giving and keep receiving God's power and God's blessing. Well, we know how that ended for him. Blinded, head shaved, chained to a flour mill, just grinding away like a common ox. Someone once confronted Martin Luther on his belief of justification with the remark, well, if justification is true, a person could simply live as he pleased. Martin Luther responded, well, indeed. The question is now, what pleases you? Augustine was a great preacher of grace during the 4th and 5th centuries, and his understanding of the doctrine of justification wasn't as fine-tuned as Luther's. But he said this, love God and do as you please. You know what? When we love God properly, we can do whatever we want. Because Scripture teaches that He changes our heart. Our wants and our desires will be towards the things of the Lord, not towards the things of self. I ask you today to remember those things. Remember the principles of sowing and reaping. We reap what we sow, we reap later than we sow, and we reap more than we sow. Let's take the time God has given to us to turn the world back to Him to reach as many as we can with the gospel. Heavenly Father, we come before you today. We ask you to be with us as we go into our next service. Help us to remember